Dr. S.M. Akhtar and Professor Tapan Chakravarti. I welcome you both of sir in this session today. Before we head towards our technical session, I would like to give a brief introduction about our first technical panelist to the audience. Dr. S.M. Akhtar is a man of multidisciplinary background. His scope of studies span over architecture, town planning, social sciences, and environment. He is a graduate of Indian Institute of Architect, a postgraduate of Institute of Town Planners India, with a master degree in public administration, which covers urban and rural environment management, sociology, economics, and bachelor's degrees in law and PhD on urban housing. He is the first recipient of DLIT in public administrations as well as first architect and planner honored with DLIT degree awarded on a thesis entitled Translating Democratic Virtues into Sustainable Physical Development. It's a composite work on policy science and acoustics. The scope of the study spans over architecture, town planning, that is transportation, network, social sciences, environmental sciences, spanning over rural and urban settlements. He is a professor and a founder, Dean Faculty of Architecture and Acoustics at Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. He has served 4 consecutive terms spanning over 12 years as Dean Faculty of Architecture and Acoustics. He developed 6 master's degree programs, namely M-Acoustics, M-Arch, Architecture Pedagogy, M-Arch Building Services, M-Arch Medical Architecture, M-Arch Recreation Architecture, and M-Arch Urban Regeneration, which all have been development to serve contemporary needs of the country as well as of the global society. Under his initiative, the first Faculty of Architecture and Acoustics got established at a central university. PhD program in architecture and planning at JMI has been introduced by him and 9 PhD has been awarded under his supervision. His books entitled Urban Housing's Issues and Strategies, Islamic Architecture at Crossroad, Habib Rahman, the Architect of Independent India, Environmental Remediation and Rejuvenation, Islamic Architecture, Perception and Paradoxes, Pedagogy, Concepts, Theories and Paradigms, and on architecture pedagogy have already been published. He had been convener of the International Conference on Islamic Architecture in 2007 and International Conference on Islamic Arts and Architecture in 2001. He has been convener for 6 issues of the National Conferences series, Architecture for Masses. He has been consultant for UNDP sponsored program titled Capacity Development of Urban Local Bodies. He was program collaborator in UIA CIMES Union International the Architects International Work Program 1999 on intermediate cities. He had been chairman of the Indian Institute of Architects UP chapter and secretary of Institute of Town Planners India UP chapter. He is also a life member of Indian Institute of Public Administration. It is great to have you, sir, on this panel. Thank you so very much to join us. Now I hand it over to you, sir.
Good morning. I think now audience is sufficient and we can start with the discussion.
Sure,
Start
sure,
with this
sir.
sentence. Yeah. Hello, am I audible? Vibhasha? Yeah. Audible? Hello?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Audible. Good. 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 So I will start with the one statement that architecture is itself is a very dynamic discipline. It goes through very rapid transformation. And it's not only centuries, it's every decade, every 5 years, it is going through the transformation. And the emphasis for this to carry this transformation is to go repeatedly under the learning process, especially for the faculty of architecture all over the country. They have to be open-ended and they have to go through the de-learning. And de-learning give you the opportunity to learn for the future and for the present society. So the emphasis is on the de-learning and the dynamism of this architecture discipline itself. And very important is the issue is in understanding the architecture, we have to always, we are carried with the perceptions. Our entire teaching is oftenly based on the perceptions of architecture which we have been inheriting. And that cannot be there. because the architecture has to move forward. It has to look for the future. It has to go in the future. It cannot be anchored alone in the past. So we have to first draw a line what is architecture and what is not. In my definition, architecture which is living and vibrant, that is architecture. So that means whatever is presently there and what will be in the future, that will be only architecture. What was past, which may have a lot of nostalgia, articulation, this and that, everything could be there, but that cannot be architecture if life is not there, vibration is not there, it's not vibrant. So that we can call archaeology, not architecture. Architecture has to be living. And we have to, as a lot of architects, we have to serve for the living, for the life of the human being, living architecture, serve the living architecture. To serve the living architecture, then we have to be living and ahead of others. We should be open to learn. We should be open to see what is going to happen in future, and that we should allow our next generation, especially students, to take forward that mission mental. Oftenly, teachers think that they know everything and students are just a step behind them. No, actually, the students are the next generation. They will go ahead of us, away of the teachers. So we should give them the openness to develop. The liberty is essential in architecture education. Without liberty in regimentation, you cannot teach students, you cannot make them grow. They can grow only if they are given the opportunity to grow. They feel liberated. Yes, they can too. They can expand, do look in the future, and that is the way ahead for them. So for that, the perception has to be redefined for the perceptions about architecture. And oftenly, it's very sad that we are sticking with the textbooks of 18th century or 19th century or the 20th century. They are not there, especially in construction. You take the books from the, or for the architecture history, you want to fill up with the course content with the architecture in the history. History is not the subject for the future. History was for the past. So you have to create a generation, guide, mentor a generation which will go for the future, which has to serve the future. So for that, you encouraged in the history alone is not the way. The encourage has to be in the future and in the past. That will open the path for the architects. Unfortunately, oftenly we try to stick to books. Books have very limited role in architecture education. More important thing is to observe the society, observe the life, observe the human beings. Oftenly, if you put a question, why a building or a residence or anything, it is in the domain of architect, not in the engineers. Engineers can do better. They can are master of the structure, and eventually we go to engineers to design this building. They can make the column grid and slabs and everything better. But why architecture? Why architect should be, the building should be in the domain of architecture? That should be the first question that has to be addressed by the students and the faculty. The reason behind is when you ask the architect instead of engineers to design a building, because they are taught, they have to understand the end user of a building. End user of the building will be the human beings. So that means that architecture has to be well exposed with the human life and human being, and be in all format. To understand human beings, you need a lot of role is there for the social sciences to be part of architecture curricula. But oftenly we believe architecture, the social sciences are irrelevant for architects. They are just a filler, just to graduate, just to pass it out. You have to get certain marks to qualify in that paper. Because the interest is to be generated high relevant. But if you don't convince your students it is a relevant part, they will not be serious with that. And without the understanding of human life, human beings, you cannot be a good architect. In architecture profession, there are two parts you have to identify. One is skill development, other is intellect development. So if we don't take the human life in account, that means we will be sticking only to skill development. And skill development can be done by the draftman or by the junior engineer or the engineer. They can do better drafting, they can master the computer, they can do anything. That is the stick. But role of the architects come in the mindset creation, in the intellectual capacity, the thinking process, the churning of the thought, the churning of the demands, and coming out with the solution and executing that. So when you recognize this role of architect, then architecture gets very vibrant. And when architecture is vibrant, and that means for the teaching methodology has to be very different. We have to be very clear about the objectives, why we are teaching and what we are teaching, why we should teach it. Every co-teaching should be have a question of why we are teaching this. So when we are clear that for architecture, human life is very important, that is the end user. And engineers are not concerned with the end user of the building, they are concerned only with the structure of the building. But as an architect, we have to be concerned with the human life. And for understanding the human life, like I was referring to Professor Tapan, this is an opportunity when a lot of exposure is available to a student, a different type of exposure. And they should be encouraged to live with that. If you see that, you will understand a different format of a human life. And that will be reflected in your design, in your thought process. So that is when oftenly the time given to students in formal education is having very less purpose. The end result is coming from the exposure to the students, exposure of the society, exposure of the people around you, exposure of the people who are going to use it, the diversity in the country, the diversity in the society, socio-economic diversity, technological diversity, climatic diversity. These all has to be absorbed by the architect. So that's why architecture is a dynamic and living thing. You cannot frame a building for a particular period and place it otherwise. You have to make it grow. You cannot replicate a building. So when you cannot replicate, architecture cannot be replicated. There's no point in sticking to past. It has to be always created. So for creation of a building, you have to go through the mental process at different time, churning of your mind to meet the challenges for the future and for the present. And with the challenges, it means the whole envelope. Within that building has to come, that architecture has to come up. It will have relation with the place, it will have relation with the period, it will have relation with the purpose, it will have relation with the people around you. So who are going to make it? They have dual capacity. So they have to be acknowledged in that. So architecture as to education, it is very important to study the life. And to study the life, classroom alone is not the place. It has to be the whole society. The 24 hours, 24/7, you have to keep your eyes open and sensitive to absorb whatever is happening around you. Everywhere there is something which will be useful at one time or the other time. So observation power is to be given encouragement in architecture, and sensitivity and logical reasoning to reach to conclusion. That is the important aspect in architecture education. Architecture education cannot be just carried forward like a secondary education from the textbooks for anything. Some portion, some subjects may have a modular education, but other has to be have a creative scope. Creativity is the end, that is coming from the mental process. So emphasis has to be on churning the mental process for the next generation of architects who will be coming, who are your students. So for that, we have to be on foot. Every time we have to be very dynamic to keep pace with the time. Because if you are purely in the academic, you are not in the profession, you are not concerned with this, it is not centuries, it will be 5 or 10 days, years, you will be out of context. Things will change a lot. So what you will be passing them the knowledge of the past. So knowledge of the past may have some relevance, but it is not the end virtue. It has to be with the context, why it is there, why it was there, but now what is the option available. I can give you the thousands of examples where the examples which are written in the textbooks, say 10, 20 years, 40 years back, they are irrelevant. The students will not comprehend what you are talking about because those things they have not seen that. Architecture itself is started, the dynamism of architecture can be seen from this reality that it is started in the late 19th century or early 20th century from the JJ College when it was part of the fine arts. Until the mid of the century, architecture used to be part of fine arts. It was in the Lucknow College, in the Lahore College, in the Baroda College, all the arts colleges were having the architecture program. But at the mid of the century, with the coming up of the Kharagpur, IIT Kharagpur, it was realized, no, it is a different, it has to go with the technology. And IIT Kharagpur was there to establish a department of architecture, which was followed by almost many of the engineering colleges. They got a department of architecture. So architecture shifted from the fine arts to technology. And then it was realized that that is also not the fit place. It is not fitting here, not fitting there. It has to have its own identity, its individuality, because that cannot be served either by technology or by fine arts. So School of Planning SPA came, the series of SPA, they are unique identities they are having. Similarly, in Jamia also, the Faculty of Architecture was established to have its own identity and growth. Because in Jamia, we got Faculty of Fine Arts, we got Faculty of Engineering, we got Faculty of Social Sciences. But again, Faculty of Architecture is different. It may take inputs from all the faculties, that is part of it. But actually, we have to tailor it as per our needs. The challenges in architecture education is that oftenly the faculties are just theoretical people. They don't go to fields. They don't understand. First thing is understanding of the contemporary trends and whether you work it there or you get associated or you visit it. And similarly, the visits of sites by the students is very important. Lot can be taught on the site that cannot be taught in the teaching. Books has to be replaced off and on. Syllabus, you need a syllabus that can be only a structure to guide you. But it could be only a muscular, bones can be there in the structure. But the skin and the muscles you have to redefine every time. Every time it has to be refurbished. What is in the structure, we have to teach, this is a core content. But structure, the details of make or detail of the contemporary on the site. What is to be taught, that is to be decided by the teacher himself. Syllabus may remain the same, but the content may be, the way of presentation, way of teaching may change. Earlier, you used to make a lot of drawing, which was a more a drafting exercise or tracing exercise. Now you have to have a creative exercise. So even the sketches on the free hand, the sketches of this construction details can be more relevant. So relevance is the key which we have to strive in teaching architecture. That will be only leaving you the architects. So first clarity we must have why we are teaching architecture. What is their future? What will be there? If we take the clear, yes, we are making them to enter, preparing them to enter in the profession, then the approach will be different. If we just don't see this mechanically, we teach them like a BA or BSc or any program where there is no concern, only a set modular education is there, which is to be parted, an exam is to be conducted, and they have to be evaluated and given a degree. So that will be a different situation. But when we are clear that we are preparing the generation for entering in the profession, so dynamism of the profession is very important, which has to be reflected in the teaching programs. So oftenly there is a debate that there is a gap between industry and institution. In the gap between industry and institution has to be minimized. That has to be eliminated. When you get a degree, the person sitting in the profession must accept you. Yes, you are an asset. You can be useful. You can be carved out for further development. You should not have the image that yes, they are churning out the stock which is not relevant to us and we have to restart it or do it ourselves or something. No, we have to make the students ready to enter in the profession. Oftenly teachers, there is like in a teaching program of 5 years of BArch program, there is a provision of internship. So that is always discussed, deliberated. There is a difference of opinion. It should be in 10th semester or in 9th or in 7th or 8th. So first you have to reason it out where it should be there, why it should be there. It could be in stage 2, that is 7th to 10th semester anywhere. But when you are sending a student to in 7th year for a training or in a 10th year, what will be difference between him? What will be his capacity to absorb? What will be his capacity to develop? This is not a shortcut for us that yes, he will train it and then he will come out and make a good documents, a good thesis which we can put in the library, and we can show it, yes, it is what done by him. So ultimately, if a book is produced, a thesis is produced, which may look good, an architect is not getting, pass out is not getting the place in the profession, then what is the point in having that? Point is when the person goes out with a degree, he should be accepted by the profession. Yes, he is a relevant person. He has been taught, he has been trained by the teachers to serve the profession. So ultimate objective should be in making the people enter the profession. So when they enter the profession, accordingly, you will plan your strategies for teaching them. That will be your objective-based teaching. That when, where, what is to be taught. There is a 5-year program. Oftenly we get the reasons why it is not 4 year. BTech is 4 year. Our students are losing 1 year increment and 1 year this and that. So it should be made 4 years. Somebody will come out. It should be only 3 years because it is in Australia 3 years. That is, logic is not correct. Logic is, yes, we are making the architect understand, because if you take the education scenario of modern education in India, BA and BSc used to be of 2 years. They have been elevated to 3 years, and there is a talk of increasing to 4 years. MBBS and MBR was 5 years. That is still 5 years, and there is no point in reducing. BTech was 4 years. It is 4 years. There is no reduction because the scope of teaching, scope of education has increased. Lot of new inputs, complexities are being addressed in the teaching program. So naturally, duration can be extended, but it cannot be reduced. Either the extended duration or you weed out the relevant portion from your syllabus and add the relevant portion. That is the way. And similarly, for professions like architecture, it is very close to similar to medical education, where earlier used to be 5 years only MBBS. That was many of the people were just after MBBS entering the profession, but this is not there now. Now everybody is going for MS or MD or even postdoctorate also, DM, and a lot of higher education specializations are there. So that is the way for architecture also. BArch may be a foundation only, but after BArch, you must go for the specialization as a master level, which is relevant, not of a irrelevant discipline, not of the 1950s or 60s, that may have limited scope, but to serve the contemporary society, we must think about it, what to coin and why the new courses are required. Like in medical sciences, a lot of specializations have come up. Similarly, a lot of specialization has to come up in the architecture also. If you have to be in the command of the building, in the current command of the architecture, yes, you have to teach them. You have to, because light of diversity is there. Different type of, like examples of Jamia is there 6 master courses, all are relevant in contemporary. There could be another 10, 20, 30 new courses in master's level, which will be having very much relevant for the national interest for the contemporary society. So that is the way for objective-based education in architecture, that we must look upon the specialization at the higher level, the master's level, and then the PhD program. And PhD program, again, it's a multidisciplinary. In pure disciplines, there is not much scope for research. Research is multidisciplinary nowadays. So architecture has got a bridge with the many disciplines, and you can get the PhD done, PhD on any of the collaborative program in multidisciplinary aspects, in sociology, economics, psychology, any aspect could be there. So that is a very wide open field for architecture, for objective-based education, and to be relevant and to the society and to the nation. It's a very good potential discipline. It has got a lot of scope for doing a lot of things, but we must open up. We must open up, and we must do the first thing is to do the de-learning, forget about the past, forget about the perception which we have carried. We require the new paradigm for the architecture education. Then that paradigm should be aimed at the objective-based education, that why we are teaching them, what is the end result, where they will lead to it, what they have to do. We are not only to create and develop the skills for them. We have to aim to develop their intellectual capacity, intellect. the thinking power, the churning, their observation and sensitivity, so that they can deliver. Like in first paradigm in architecture institution, oftenly in many places it's what taught, you let them fantasize. Fantasy is something which cannot be achieved. That is hypothetical. Visualization is something which can be achieved. So in architecture, everything has to be turned into physical reality. It is existing. It has to exist. So if it is to exist, fantasies don't exist. So where is the scope for fantasizing in architecture? The scope is for visualization of the future and for the projects. Visualization which can be turned into a physical reality, which can be in architecture. So from there we have that, as I said, the perception we have to change it. We have to have a paradigm shift in the perceptions of architecture. Perceptions has to be contemporary, relevant and purposive, which can deliver to the contemporary society, which is the pulse of the profession today. Oftenly we just have a disconnect with the profession and we confine ourselves to the academics and take it as a formality. Yes, we can teach them, this is the syllabus, we got it, which we have inherited from generations, and we just pass it on to architecture, to students. That is not there. That may be in a structure and something, somewhere it could be there, relevant climatology may be same. But other expression, the vocabulary of architecture goes through very quick transformation. You have to be in tune with the vocabulary of architecture. And if you don't tune yourself with the vocabulary of the transformation in the vocabulary architecture, then your architecture will be irrelevant for the society. It will be not accepted. To have the pulse of the changing vocabulary, you have to be very aware, enlightened, and observant of the things happening and how that is happening and what is to be done. That should be your approach for having an objective in the profession. Another very important aspect in architecture discipline is architecture. If we take only in physical terms, the scope of architecture is very narrow. Then engineer or anybody can challenge you and they can come over you. But this is not there. Another very important aspect of architecture is there is a tangibility in architecture as well as there is an intangibility in architecture. So normally we don't talk about the intangibility in architecture. We don't think about it. We may have a subconscious mind, but consciously we don't decipher, we don't understand, we don't appreciate. Yes, the intangible entity in the architecture, and that is very much there. And that intangibility makes the architecture very vibrant and open-ended. The greatness of architecture is in the blending of the tangibility with the intangibility. Intangibility that is related with the humanity, with the human life, with the sociology, with the economics, with the psychology of human being. That is all reflected in architecture. You may have seen it everywhere, but you may not be missed to notice that. Yes, this is the intangibility of architecture we are talking about, and that is the inherent part of ours, which we don't acknowledge. And this intangibility gives us the special height which we are having, which we expect in architecture profession. That is because you communicate with that intangibility in creation of that intangibility that is transformed from the end user, or you have to study and translate that. You may take the requirement only in physical terms. Tangibility, tangible requirements you can take, but intangibility you have to sense with your sense and then translate it, put it there. It will come in every building. The intangibility will come with the tangibility, but it may have a conscious effect or unconscious effects, but that is there. The realization of that is very important for architects to understand that the architecture, every piece of architecture has got some element of intangibility. It's not only the War Memorial at the gate of India Gate, which is having the intangibility. Intangibility is in every building. That's why every building is different. It is carrying the soul of the owner of the building. It reflects their thought process. And as an individual also, you can see the people who patronize a building, their psychology, their thought process, their mental state is reflected in the building. And similarly, I can give you, if you start probing it, you will find that all history may be false or true. Normally, history is written by the owners or the winners or the rulers. But if you take the history from the buildings of any time, you can see the socio-economic transformation of the society. You can decipher that because that is always pasted on the building. How the society has moved, what was the economic condition, what was the social condition, that is can be redeciphered from the architecture of any period, any place. So that you should do it or not, but you should be aware that as an architect, yes, it is a potential of architecture that it narrates the story, carries the story of socio-economic transformation of the society. So that is becomes another virtue of architecture, which gives the greatness to architecture. Often architecture is referred as an adjective very well. He was architect of modern India, he was architect of this, architect of that. So there, the word as an adjective architecture is very well accepted and understood by the society. But when you say as a professional architect, then even in the society, you have to decipher. You may come across the people who will say, yeah, engineer hai. Somebody will say, yes, he is so and so. He will not acknowledge you as an architect. It's a unique profession, but there they may be referred. But here, yes, you are being associated, related. Yes, he creates a building. He is a maker of a building. So, maker of a building or anything, that is not the architecture. But for the common man perception, architecture word is not understood as a verb. As adjective, yes, it is appreciated. As a profession, it is not understood. So that is to be the hunch that architects themselves have to know there about it. Yes, where is the place and why are they not being accepted? So that is because they don't talk about these things. So they confine themselves only to drafting or the Photoshops or the AutoCAD. AutoCAD, that is also there. That is essential for you to express yourself. But the core is in your thought process, in your mind. That is creativity is from your mind. The application of your mind, that is very diverse. That has to be rooted and that has to be churned out with lot of inputs from various corners of various disciplines they have to go through it. So that is the issue which is required for the objective education. The challenge for everybody who is in architecture profession, in a teaching capacity or any capacity, to have the perceptions about the architecture known in the society with its insights. It is very superficial perception. You have to take the society for the transformation in the paradigm shift of the architecture education. The dynamism of architecture has to be communicated and told to them. So to telling them, first you have to tell your students the dynamism of architecture, the life of architecture, the vibration in architecture. Often some of the architects will say, yes, every building has got a soul. I will also say, yes, it has got soul. But even I have come across the professional architects, they will say, "Maine soul dekhi nahi kahin." So soul is not something physical which you have seen. Soul is the emotions in the life of that being in that building. When the end user is satisfied, is in tuned with the ambience created in that environment, that is the soul of the building. So architects work on the soul of the building with its physical expression, and engineers does only the physical form of the architect, not the soul of it. So to understand the soul, you have to be very diversity aware about the society, about the changes, about the transformation, everything. Like oftenly we will believe that, take the larger example of town planning, towns master plans. Town planners may think that they've created it. Engineers may think they've created it. Architect may think that is they've created. But the reality remains, every town, every architecture is an economic function. It's not you. It's the economy of that area generated. Economy is driving that city to grow. So if you appreciate that economics, the importance of economics in the life of architecture or planning or the city, which they referred as a magnet, the pulse. So they all are these aspects of social human life, which is to be catered there, which guides the thing to happen. Social pressures may be different, economic pressures may be different, and all comes together to lead the society, and where architecture is playing a lead role, because building shapes you, you shape the buildings. So for that, you have to be very aware and ahead of others. And your students have to be open-ended to explore for the future, to feel the life in architecture, life in the buildings. That will be the path to go at for objective-based education. It has to be very different, a very unique discipline. And that way, accordingly, you need a lot of different uniqueness and experimentation. You cannot be just once lifetime you are a teacher and lifetime you are a teacher. You may have the notes of your graduation time, and same you can just dictate for throughout your career. It is not going to work. Every year, for every class, after every class, you have to tear it out. All your notes and instruction, you have to tear it out and put in the dustbin there only. When next you enter in the class, you should be prepared with the new notes, new guidelines, what you have to teach. What is the challenge of the today? What is there? The feel you have to have. That you have to communicate with your students in every subject. It's not only in one subject. It's not only design is very important, where vocabulary has to be, the transformation in the vocabulary has to be carried. But besides that, even construction, even other social discipline, everything has to be there. And next challenge which comes in architecture education is it's a multidisciplinary, it takes inputs from maybe 20, 30 disciplines today, which is recognized, identified. And oftenly to have the inputs from that, you try to get the professional person from that discipline to teach your student. And that person will think, yes, he can do the, make the student do the PhD in that subject only. So he will eat out all the time. And lot of things which is not relevant for them, they will be taught. The only thing is from every discipline, you have to take the relevant component and teach them. Similarly, you have to go into various disciplines. To start with, we can have interaction with the people from that discipline, but finally, the architect has to come out. What is to be taught in psychology, what is to be taught in sociology, what is to be taught in ecology, in economics, and that has to be taught by the architects themselves. Because they will know the pulse of that, the feel and the relevance, and how much is required to be taught. Not the whole thesis is to be done. It may be one paper, it may be one module, it may be one chapter, but that you have to take care of yourself. Like I give you very good another example, very unique. Oftenly we believe that there is a structure is to be taught by them to our student. So we get some hold of a structural engineer. He teaches architecture. His students how to do the structure. The only thing what he will do, he will teach the bending moment, shear force, this and that, all those calculations, and which will be there. But architecture structure is much beyond that. The different forms you experiment. So that is to be make them understand what could be the options for a large span structure, or for a different structure, or for a modular structure, or for a sculpture structure. So that will is not taught by the engineer. They will just do the only the AutoCAD and the StudMan and the computer aided program and all this. They will do with all the good intention, but their scope is limited to that only. But with architect's scope has to be very vibrant. They have to have a free thinking about the space and the form. So for that, what is available, most of the architects, engineers who has delivered good architecture, or have been in team with the architects, they are very experimental. They have taken the at times from the shell of an animal, a vertebrate animal, any animal, a structure form from that, bulk active, shell active, all this. So they have to be taught that. Option has to be introduced to them. Let them do the designing, and let them hire the best person, found the person. Yes, you want to make this building this way, this much span is required, this will do. It is not the word limited to only 3.6 meter grid. It could be anything. And you have to deliver. Engineer, every engineer is not required to deliver that, but architect is required to deliver that. And then for that, you may find the best person to design that, detail it out. But conceptually, you have to give it. And for giving that concept, for understanding of that, you have to travel further. You have to study, you have to understand, develop the understanding for the basics of physics. Because every structure is based on the physics. And physics, normally we are taught from class 6, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. And we forget that, yes, that was a formality we have completed. But some portion of the physics taught in this in class 6, 7th, and 8th, they are very relevant for teaching the architecture or for the architecture profession itself today. So you have to tell your student, yes, you start from the applied mechanics in the physics from there, and then you can understand the structures. If you don't understand the basics mechanism of physics, physics is the foundation of every structure. So nothing, no calculation can be a substitute to that. The basic understanding how the form is to be conceived, that will come from the study of the basic physics of class school days. So just a revision of that is required. Only thing is key teacher has to see that objective based education, that yes, this will be required. You can ask your student to just do the revision, they will do it in the one day. Yes, you read the applied mechanics part, don't go further in detail in that. That will be there, that will provide them a good example for the good foundation for. If you are teaching a bending moment calculation may be one part, but you have to tell that the depth of the beam is matters. That goes into square terms, not the width. So oftenly the concept of Hazmi beam, which is local language, that is irrelevant, because if the depth is not there, bending moment is very less. So that understanding of the common sense will come from the study of the physics of the basics of light mechanics. So students have to be taken that way, and that will generate interest in them. Why they should study the physics. Physics may be apparently it may be boring, but boring part you don't have to study. You have to study only the applied mechanics. Without applied mechanics, no structure can be taught to you. But normally everywhere we are doing, just we are getting an engineer, and he will start with the calculation, calculate the bending moment, calculate the shear force. So that may be relevant for them, but for architecture that is not that relevant. For architecture, relevance is to how to conceive a form which can sustain, which can be stable, which can be there. Calculation can be done. First thing is conceptualizing that thing. So with this, all this analogy and conclusion, I will say architecture can be defined with only 3C: conceptualization, communication, and concretization. Conceptualization is the main crux, which is the mental process, how your brain charts out a design. So that is the conception, how you conceive the design. And for that, architect has to, that is the primary route to conceptualization, is the core for architecture. And then when you have conceived it, it is in your mind. Now from your mind, it is to be communicated to the client, to the end user, to workman, to craftsman, to skilled and unskilled labor. Everybody has to be taken in loop to, and they have to communicate it. Accordingly, presentation drawing you make separate, working drawings are separate, structural drawings are separate. Everything is, that is a method of communication. How effective your communication could be, you master on all this system which is available at your command. Earlier it would be pencil, then it used to be rotary, now it is computer. Whatever is there, they are all your tools. Computer is no different. Computer is not going to deliver anything. Computer will only obey your commands, what you give, which the pencil used to do. It's more efficient. It's more versatile. That's all. So you have to, first is conceptualize, second is communicate. So mastery in communication is very important. Whether you make a drawing or somebody else, you have to give the sketches, they will translate it. You have to share your mind to your assistant, they will develop it. It has to be communicated to various group of people having different capabilities and different interests, like presentation drawing, for the marketing drawing, and then the municipal drawing, then the structural, then the working, and everything is there. So that is aimed who is going to decipher that. The person who is approving the plan, or the person who is steel binder, or the mason who is there. So everything has to be, everybody has to be communicated. So that versatility, you need to communicate your thought. And then finally, whatever is communicated, whatever is conceived, that has to be turned into a physical reality. So that is the third C, I say concretization. It has to be put into, it may be concrete or steel, that is not important. You have to specify the material and how it will be implemented, how it is to be done, keep when finally architects come out as a tangible identity. So for that, you need to do the concretization. So these three things, if you are focused on these three, then you can be very good in creating architect themselves, being your architect. All three aspects are there, and the command, the conceptualization, that has to be done by the architect, who does the concepts, conceives it, and narrates it in any form, communicate. That is the task. In communication, you may have thousands of people, specialists of Photoshop and this and AutoCAD and this and that, they can assist you. And then on the field, the engineers could be there, materials man can be there, material engineer could be there, texting staff could be there, executive staff could be there. So all the entire team is there. That is their role is to make the building physical reality. This is simple. With this object simplicity, if we move in the paradigm shift for architecture, things will be very easy. Why we must teach our students this and that? Let the students have a free, that's why I'm telling you, let the student have a free hand, free thought, free flight, not for fantasy, but for visualization. For creating architecture, they should be free. Liberty is very, oftenly I have seen, there are some teachers who are very good, very hard working teachers, but students are not satisfied them. Why? They're doing the drawing, they are doing the drafting, they are sketching everything, but the student said, no, I want to do it myself. You just do the correction. I don't want you to design in my place. I will do the design. You guide me. Here I am wrong. Give the reason and I will do it. But don't draw on my board. Such teachers, there is a rebellion because the student, they have the potential, because we are carried with a wrong perception that guru hota hai, chela hota hai. Chela guru nahi hota. Chela guru ka mahaguru hota hai. Because if you take the society itself, society is moving ahead. Every next society, next day, society is ahead. So when the society is ahead, who is taking the society ahead? The next generation. That may be a student for you. So students, some of them, most of them, it depends, will have to go ahead of you. Their potential, that potential is to be nurtured. Yes, you must have a confidence and you must have a liberty. I am there to give you only guarantee. Yes, go ahead. Whenever you will stumble, we will support you. But you have to walk on the rope alone. We are only to safeguard you when you are in a crisis. So with this approach, if you make your students study, they will have a much more confidence and much more liberty to experiment. So this is not required to give a lot of time to dictate, but be observant where they are need you. When they are stumbling, that situation, you should be first to foresee that here they will need you, and that there you should support. That is the main task in teaching and architecture. How to make them grow and how to make them realize future ready. In architecture, we are making the student future ready. In other disciplines, they may not be the challenge of making the student future ready, but maybe for present or for the past, whatever is there. But in majority, we are making the student future ready. The future ready, we cannot go with the common perception which was traditionally inherited or passed on without a thought process, without a reasoning, without a churning of it. We have to churn out, we have to think about it, and accordingly, we have to mold our students to go ahead and do the adventure in the field, experimentation in the field, express yourself in the field. And naturally, that will guarantee them a much better confidence and much better satisfaction and much better output, much better human beings and much better architects. So this is the objective-based education. When objectives are clear, yes, we have to make a student who has come to us after doing the 12th class. After in 5 years, we have to roll them out into an architect who could enter the profession. May go for masters, may not go for masters. That is another option. But they should be ready to be accepted. If they will go without masters, then they will start in the profession from maybe some lower steps. If they go with the masters, they have to be mastered. They may start at the higher step. In 2 years, they may also cover up that may. The person coming from outside may be specialist in some area. Generalist may be there from the huge government. But our task is to give the best to the society. It's not the students you are delivering. Your aim is to give what best you can give to society and to humanity and to nation. This concern has to be there. In nation building, is a very important. Nation means society. Society at times they are overlapping. And we are very fortunate we are in India, which is a very rich and very diverse country. Lot of climatic experience, social experience, everything could be there in the country itself. Let your students make a round to the country and they will be having much more greater exposure to it. We got snow climates, we got desert climates, we got climate and coastal climate, we got rainforest. So every climate is there. And with every climate, there is different societies also, different mannerism also, different way of expression, different way of constructions are there. It's only a matter of giving them opportunity to expose them. Exposure is important. Exploration is important. Architecture cannot be without exploration. So if in COVID situation where we are having online teaching, if we apply our mind and we try to, as I said, turn the disadvantage into advantage, there is a lot of potential to turn the situation that way. We can make the students much more vibrant and thinking person and have much more experience and much more exposure, which will be very different, which is humanly not available for any society. From decades I have been seeing nobody, no generation has got that opportunity which is being given available today, because this situation has never prevailed in the country. And this situation, instead of craving for that, we can turn it into advantage. We can do a lot of experimentation in this situation because architects are to be ready to cope up with every situation. This situation today may appear unique, but this is the situation and you have to accept the situation and deliver it accordingly. So that is the preparation for the architect, which is the opportunity we have got right now, and we must capitalize on this. There is no harm in this situation. We have a lot of advantage and go ahead, whatever is there. So basic thing is for architecture to be objective based, the perception has to go through change, and we must have the perception, especially the teachers, the faculty members spread across the country. We must open up to changing situation, to new scenario, and we don't have any opportunity. Our mindset has to be very positive. We don't have can be a good architect with a negative mindset. Negative mindset, if we keep cribbing, yes, this is a bad situation, we are coping from 1 year, we are confined to a room or this and that, we are not meeting just I can see your photographs, I'm not meeting you, that would have been, I'm not having lunch with you. That is the situation, but there's no point in cribbing. Yes, it is good on sitting on the net from home, I'm delivering everything. And when you are talking from the home, yes, you can have line up number of meetings, number of classes, number of lectures everywhere. And besides lectures, sitting from the room, you can do lot of diversity. I have been taking a lot of lectures while moving on the car. Somebody is driving, I am just teaching to my students. Whenever they need me, I'm available. I'm outside Delhi, I'm anywhere. Yes, you send me the link. There are many softwares are there, many composition, Google Meet, this and that. I will take your classes. There's no way to say, yes, I cannot take your class. I'm busy with so-and-so meeting. Simultaneously, I'm having the meeting and the classes and everything because number of computers are lined up. On each, there is a different way of scenario. So this is the turning the advantage, living with the situation, living with the situation and responding with the situation. That is the task, virtue of an architect. You cannot surrender to any situation. You have to fight it out to its best advantage. So that mental frame is very important. The positivity in the mindset of every architecture student has to be inculcated to cope up with the future situation. That is the way for objective based education. I think I've told you a lot of things. Now I can, if you have some questions, some queries, I would like to, if the organizer permit, I would like to answer them. If the questions are there, that could be very purposive. You can take the decision. If there are questions, yes, I can respond. You are not audible, ma'am. Just Kanika.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. It was wonderful. And I think we have interviewed a lot of people and they're asking questions for the same. So the first question we have is from Suparna. She wants to ask, very informative discourse, Professor Akhtar. Please give your take on the latest development in architecture education. Council is subsumed into higher education body and of course is changed to 3-year degree. I think she wants to know your opinion about it.
Whatever the council is doing, there are people who have applied their mind, and whatever they will change, accordingly we will adopt it with the desired changes. There will be always opportunity to tailor it to our suitability. First thing is we have to be clear that what we want to deliver, and accordingly whatever their regulatory body is doing, we can fit in that. It's arbitrarily they will not do it. I've spoken that is 5 years is also very less, and if it is being reduced to 3 years, that is beyond our scope. Then we will have to cope up with the master's degree and the PhD programs. There is no restriction on that we have to go ahead. The perception, the only thing is in nomenclature, it's only 5 years BR. Tomorrow we will be going for everybody for the master's degree or for the PhD program, and it is growing also. So it has to be the trend which has been taught by the government. We cannot do it in the council. Also, there are architects. They will be reasoning it out. They may have a perception. There may be situation which is very right now. There is nothing which can see this is happen. And the problem, the problem is on us also. The responsibility is on us also. For this situation to come up, we are also responsible, because we have been, as an architect, many people, not all, have been saying 5 years is very tedious, very tiresome, because they have not reasoned it out why it is needed. The scope of study is increasing. They have not realized that. Just कौवा कान ले गया, कौवे के पीछे हम दौड़ेंगे, तो ये उससे तो नहीं चलेगा. रीजन आउट करना पड़ेगा. और अभी आज भी देखिए, इवन 5 year program में there are institutions which find 5 years very less to teach. Lot of things are to be there, and there are schools also who are finding 5 years are boring because they are not able to fill up the 5 years program. Like I give you more crude example. Like today, if you ask me, I will say yes. In architecture, you have to teach the management also, because project is to be delivered. Not all the management, but time or constraint, kaise, how to do the PERT and CPM and all this. And similarly, financial management is a crux. That finance and inventory will come, that will be required. Social sciences are required. Similarly, I said key professional practices are to be reoriented. Professional practice means that if you go in the profession, you can survive well in the profession. You are not trapped. If you land up in the profession and you don't know about the GST or about the income tax, you will be trapped. Another very crude example: if you take ask anybody, do you know Negotiable Instrument Act? Majority will say no, I don't know. Some surveying students have understood that some instrument is there, but it is not an instrument. It is simply a bank check. An implication is bank check is if it is not honored, then you could be put behind bars for a year and you have to pay the double the amount. So when entering in the profession, everybody should know that what is Negotiable Instrument Act. And you should know, but like in entering profession, you got the financial custard, you don't get the money, you oftenly just चेक दे दिया कि चलो भाई आदमी टल गया एक हफ्ते के लिए, वो चेक आपके गले का फंदा बन गया है, ये आपको नहीं पता होता। लेकिन आपको ये पता हो कि ये चेक आपको जेल पहुंचा देगा और आपकी लाइफ खत्म हो जाएगी, तो आप नहीं करेंगे। ऐसे ही कंज्यूमर प्रोटेक्शन एक्ट है, उसमें आप फंसते हैं, जीएसटी में आप फंसते हैं। तो प्रोफेशन में एंटर होने से पहले ये सारी चीजें मैं समझता हूं कि उसको पढ़ा देने चाहिए हमें, हम लोग पढ़ा भी देते हैं। अब इससे अच्छा इंसिडेंट ये है, हमारी एक दोस्त है, जब मैं टीचिंग प्रोफेशन में कंसल्टेंट था, तब वो दोस्त हमारे अक्सर कहते हैं, भाई तुम्हारा स्पेशलाइजेशन क्या है? सब मैं प्रोफेशनल प्रैक्टिस पढ़ाता हूँ। तो वो क्वेश्चन मेरे दिमाग में 30 साल हॉन्ट करता रहा कि जिस आदमी ने एक भी दिन प्रोफेशन में नहीं रहा है, वो प्रोफेशनल प्रैक्टिस का एक्सपर्ट बना कैसे? और मैं जब प्रोफेशन में आया कंसल्टेंसी से, तो मैंने जब सिलेबस बनाया, तो मैंने कहा ये सारा लॉ भी पढ़ाना पड़ेगा, इसमें कॉन्ट्रैक्ट भी पढ़ाना पड़ेगा, टेंडरिंग पढ़ाना, सारा ये सारा हमारा बन गया कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, वो उसका प्रोफेशनल। फिर मुझे एक दिन एक्सप्लोर हुआ कि हमारे दोस्त साहब क्या पढ़ाते थे। वो साहब इंस्टाइन की जीवनी पढ़ा रहे हैं, भल्ला साहब की जीवनी पढ़ा रहे हैं, उन्होंने ये किया, उन्होंने ये किया। तो दिस इज नॉट प्रोफेशनल प्रैक्टिस। प्रोफेशनल प्रैक्टिस इज कि आपको जब तालाब में हम डालेंगे तो आप स्विम कैसे करेंगे, यानी प्रोफेशन में जब आप इंटर करेंगे, लीगली हाउ यू विल सेव योरसेल्फ। तो लीगली सेव के अलावा उसके बाद आपको नक्शा पास करवाना है, आपको कहाँ जाना है उसके लिए। नक्शा पास कराने के लिए उसकी फोरम लोकल बॉडी है, उसकी अथॉराइजेशन कहाँ से आती है, ये एक्ट तो आपको समझना पड़ेगा ना। एक्ट क्या होता है ये समझना पड़ेगा। तो उसके लिए आपको इंडियन गवर्नेंस पढ़नी पड़ेगी। भैया एक लेजिस्लेटिव हाउस होता है, एग्जीक्यूटिव होता है, एक जुडिशरी होता है। लेजिस्लेटिव हाउस नक्शा पास करता है, उसमें 3 टियर है, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट है, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट है, यूनियन गवर्नमेंट। लोकल गवर्नमेंट नक्शा पास करेगी, वो आपको पनिश कर सकती है, वो आपको कैंसिल कर सकती है, वो आपके अगेंस्ट काउंसिल में कंप्लेंट कर सकती है। तो ये सब बातें हैं जो आपको पढ़ानी है। तो अब हमने जब वो काम किया, तो हमने कहा कि ये भाई मैनेजमेंट में पढ़ाना है, प्रोफेशनल प्रैक्टिस भी पढ़ाना है, लॉ भी पढ़ाना है। तो ये सारा बच्चा जो पढ़ेगा तभी वो रेडी होगा। तो इसका मतलब 5 साल कम पढ़ रहा है, उसमें से ट्रिम डाउन करो, हिस्ट्री कम करो, ये कम करो, वो करो, जो इर्रेलेवेंट है, जो यूज नहीं। तो दूसरी जगह मैंने क्या देखा, 5 साल करना है, कैसे करूं सर? एक पेपर इंग्लिश पढ़ा दो, हम इंग्लिश पढ़ाते नहीं है, हमारे पास टाइम ही नहीं है। एक पेपर हिंदी पढ़ा दो, टाइम खत्म हो गया। एक पेपर और क्या पढ़ाना है, सर्विंग पढ़ा दो। चलो, एक पेपर में आपने कहा कि मॉडल मेकिंग बना दो, मॉडल मेकिंग का एक पेपर हो गया। एक पेपर आपने मेजर ड्राइंग का करा दिया, तो आप बिल्डिंग नाप के चले। तो अल्टीमेटली आपने कौन सा आर्किटेक्ट बनाया? लेकिन आपका अपना परसेप्शन, मैंने कहा परसेप्शन चेंज चाहिए। तो परसेप्शन में आपके ये आ ही नहीं रहा है कि 5 साल को हम बिजी कैसे रखेंगे। तो आपने 5 साल को इस तरह भरा, तो वो सारी चीजें जब वो सामने आती हैं कि 5 साल को फिलअप करने के लिए आप हिंदी, इंग्लिश और मेजरमेंट ड्राइंग और मॉडल मेकिंग पढ़ा रहे हैं, तो आदमी कहता है कोर्स रिड्यूस कर दो 5 साल से 3 साल कर दो। लेकिन जब हम कहते हैं नहीं भैया हमें ये भी पढ़ाना है, ये भी पढ़ाना है, इसके बिना लड़का सर्वाइव नहीं करेगा, हमारा बच्चा सर्वाइव नहीं करेगा। तो ये परसेप्शन चेंज जब होता है, ये परसेप्शन होता है, तो आपको लगता है भाई 5 साल कम पड़ रहा है हमारे लिए। आप लोग जो बहुत से हैं जो लोग इसी बात को रियलाइज भी कर रहे होंगे, ऐसी बात नहीं मैं अकेला हूं जो बोल रहा है, आपके भी यही ऑब्जर्वेशन होंगे जो मेरे हैं। तो वो जो भी रेगुलेटरी बॉडी चेंज कर रहा है, वहां पे रीजन आउट करने वाला जो पर्सन है, अगर रीजन आउट कर लेगा, तो करे भाई। अगर आप अपनी एनालॉजी मेडिकल से लेंगे तो आपके साथ वो नहीं होगा, लेकिन अगर अपने को आप इक्वेट करते हैं इंजीनियरिंग से, तो आपके साथ वो भी हो सकता है। अब देखिए एक और बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात है, आप सुनिए, इंजीनियरिंग में होता है डिप्लोमा इंजीनियरिंग होता है और डिग्री इंजीनियरिंग होता है। और डिप्लोमा इंजीनियरिंग करने वाले को इंजीनियरिंग बीटेक में सेकंड ईयर में एडमिशन दिया जा सकता है, ये प्रोविजन है। क्योंकि वो 1 साल जो 3 साल वहां पढ़ा है, उसको 1 साल यहाँ कवर किया था। क्योंकि जो डिप्लोमा की टीचिंग है मॉड्यूलर, उसी का एक्सटेंशन है इंजीनियरिंग में। लेकिन आर्किटेक्चर में जो डिप्लोमा होता है, आर्किटेक्चर में डिप्लोमा नहीं होता, डिप्लोमा इन असिस्टेंटशिप है, कि आपको सिर्फ स्किल डेवलपमेंट पढ़ाया गया है। यू आर नॉट फिट टू गिव एन लेटरल एंट्री इन बियास। अगर आपको आना है तो लाइक अदर स्टूडेंट्स यू कम कंप्लीट, गिव द एप्टीट्यूड टेस्ट एंड इंटर फ्रॉम द फर्स्ट ईयर। है नहीं है क्लियर? ये सोचा था कभी आपने कि आर्किटेक्चर में असिस्टेंटशिप का डिप्लोमा है कि आपकी ड्राफ्टिंग करने के लिए आदमी को ट्रेन किया गया है, आर्किटेक्ट बनाने के लिए नहीं। आर्किटेक्चर में बीटेक में यू हैव टू क्रिएट अ माइंडसेट, और इन डिप्लोमा यू हैव टू क्रिएट ओनली एम्फेसिस ऑन द स्किल डेवलपमेंट। दैट इज आल्सो रिस्पेक्टेड, दैट इज रिक्वायर्ड, दैट इज डिजायर्ड, बट दैट इज टू डिफरेंट वर्ड। Skill development is different, intellectual development is different, and that is very clear in architecture. So if it is to be communicated clearly, then nothing is going to change. If it is cannot be communicated, then anything may happen. It's a very fluid situation. It's not beyond our control. Next question, Kanika.
Yes, sir, truly said. We have another question from Architect Josna, who is first applauding you for the session. She's saying it's a very thought-provoking session. Now, the question she asks is that should we include other subjects like psychology, economics at BARC level? Would it confuse them? Or would just taking a brief small module of these subjects lead to a lack of total understanding of the humanities subject and relate fully to dynamics of the profession?
Madam, these things I have already covered. She may have missed it, and again I repeat it. We have to take inputs from many disciplines, say 20, 30 disciplines we have to take. But if we expect them to teach our students, then that will be a disaster. We must have a perceptual change. We must think about it, how much psychology, how much sociology, economics is to be taught to our students. Basic awareness that has to be created. They don't have to do the master's or PhD degree in psychology or in economics or in social sciences. To have that condensed capsule, architect will have to take the lead. They may have the interaction, may have consulted the people, and then you work out a module where, like in Jamia, we are having a 1 year paper on humanities. There are 4 modules, half semester you can say each. In one semester, we will teach Indian governance. In one semester is psychology. Two in one semester. And then in second, we take sociology, and then we take the economics. So all the 4 subjects are covered in one paper, and that is divided into number of 4 modules. So just 4 modules, with the help of 4 modules, we can teach our students the importance of humanities and relation with the architecture. Further, they can explore themselves if they are interested, but basic understanding they get, and that is what we are doing. We have to give the basic understanding at UG level. Exploration is always open, and now it is very easy. Anybody can sit on the net or mobile. Just you can put the search and you will get everything. It's up to your interest, what you want to study. Initially, when I introduced the paper of humanities, you are very rightly, I asked a psychologist to teach one module. He thought it's a good opportunity to teach psychology. He was not finishing everything. Continue like he was teaching a PhD student. Then I have to throw him out one day and take all the modules myself, and then train the next student, the teacher, assistant professor, that from onward you take these 4 things. And they have been developed, they are doing that, they have mastered it. Similarly for structures also, somebody has to take the lead in about, I am talking about the physics. So the first year, second year, third year structure may be taught by any engineer, but for the 4th year structure, only architects are teaching. Me or my some other assistant is teaching. Yes, this is the form of architecture. What is the versatility in the structures, which engineers are not teaching. That only we can. We may just give the introduction. What is bulk active? What is vector active? What is steel structure? What is this? All type of structures are just exposed to them, and the basic physics that you have to start from the lever and the transfer of forces, balancing of forces, gravity. Just fundamental of the school days. With revision of that, you get, yes, every cantilever has to come with the consideration of some lever. The applied part, you have to tell them where it is applied in the building. So when they design that building, that portion, they will take in mind, and then the building will not have any problem. If it is there, this is a more bending mode. If it is there, is less weak. So simple like examples like this, they can make their perception. Yes, this is a beam. This is this is having the bending moment. Depth, which is a square, and when you do it this is the depth. The square of this is very less, so there is no strength in it. Simple. This understanding, they have to be just provoked about it. Yeah, next question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So there is another question from Shripad. The person is asking, what is your thought on introducing BIM, GIS, MIS, digital fabrication, as well as AR, VR coding and AI in undergrad education process?
Sir, there is there should be open-mindedness. I said the paradigm shift. Yes, that is there. Now it is how much is to be can be accommodated at UG level, and what is will be left for the PG level. I said more PGs are required in a specialized area. He's very rightly pointed out. We can have but all these aspects of a master's program also. But introduction, yes, we can do. Like I said, the dynamism in the syllabus is required. I said building bylaws. Yes, we were teaching building bylaws in the traditional way. But now I realize BCMC code, jo hai, energy codes, they have to be incorporated in that. So there's nothing was required. Only just a chapter had been added. This will be also taught. And instead of something will be replaced. Now you have to be. The building has to comply with the energy efficiency. That is the biggest challenge. So similarly, yes, you should be open to whatever is changing, coming in the that should be introduced in that level or taught to it. If it is a very advanced, then just introduce at the UG level and then have a master's program on the specialized thing. Like today, we are having a lot of metro cities, metro and airports. We can have a master's degree in superstructures also. A specialized structure for large specialized structures also. We can have a degree on that, master's degree on that. So that should be open. It's very good suggestion. It's very good thinking. It should be encouraged, and he should go ahead with this.
I think it's answered well. Now we have another question coming through some other platform. The person is asking, in an architecture studio for higher classes, in a short period of 3 months of a semester, how the student to do the justice with the project, with the different aspects, the services, structure, landscape, etc.
No, that is again is about the mindset situation. Everywhere students are doing the same thing, and normally architecture students are very highly workaholic. They are overworked, so they have to do it. And the second thing is in architecture, it's every subject has got a different application. Architecture is very time intensive, but time intensive is that not only the classroom. Classroom mein you have to give less time, whatever is required there. But more time, the 24 hours are there. Out of that 24 hours, 6 hours, 4 hours you may be teaching, and 8 hours you may be relaxing or sleeping. But still you got 12 to 8 hours, 10 hours, 6 hours, which you just open up your mind without exerting yourself. You will keep absorbing a lot of things. Mind is a continuous industry. If things are in your mind, you will be coming out with a lot of solutions and suggestions and questions that only you have to put on the paper. Teachers should be, the emphasis should be changed in the presentation techniques also. Lot of sheets may be reduced rationally where it is required. Lot of drafting may be reduced. Like I said, an example, there is no point in making a drafting. Just do the sketches, freehand sketches, and communicate whatever is there. If knowledge is there, it can be deciphered, it could be understood, that is sufficient. Yes, you have understand why how it is made, and you give the pre-hand sketch with all the leveling and thinking process, joinery details, and this and that is sufficient. What is the point in having wasting the whole day on just tracing or doing the drafting? So we have to work out new formats of presentation where we can rationalize the time. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So there are more questions. I would like to take another one. The person is saying that you have emphasized on human-centric education. However, empathetic and sensitized approach towards all natural beings or living beings is important. What is your opinion?
It's a complete thesis itself is the question you have asked. Can you be precise what you want to ask? You want to ask?
I think I would request the person can elaborate it or not. But what I have understood, I think the person is trying to say rather than having a human-centric design approach, I think we must inculcate all. I think it's about the universal design, the approach towards making it fit for all, not just about humans, but all the living being living together and making the whole of it. I think this is what the question is about. This is what I have understood.
I got what you are saying. But you can live in any format, but the basic foundation fundamental is the humanity. We are all human beings, and our all aim, action, gesture is to serve the human beings. in this capacity or one capacity or the other. So without human, you can be in any fantasy. There is no bar on it. But the purposive and the relevance is there when you are delivering to human beings. So my architecture, or I believe majority of the people will be believing that architecture is for the human beings. It's not for the aliens. It's not for the fantasies. It's not for those who don't exist. So this is very crude reality, and we may call it crude or fine or refined it. But thing is ki without humanity, without human being, without human consideration, there could be nothing in this civilization. Yeah, Kanika?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think there are a lot of people who are asking question, and I think we have time, so take more. We have another question from Onkar Kulkarni. The person is first of all saying good morning to you and applauding you for your thought-provoking session. The question is about the syllabus. The person says, my question is fast syllabus can be open-ended to accommodate new chapters getting introduced in industry day by day. How it can be devised with ongoing syllabus?
You are very right. Your request is very right, very honest. But thing is, ki, as I already referred, for accommodating the contemporary developments, you don't always need to go through a new syllabus. Syllabus which was prescribed model syllabus, the course content by the Council of Architecture in 1982 education, 83 architecture education program, that is been serving the society perfectly. And that is not static, that is very dynamic also. The hours are defined, course content is with the content you can always change it, draft it. And moreover, 25% is the freedom given to every institution. They can have their own papers or subject or something. Only 75% core they have specified, and that is also very dynamic. Like I give you example, if say we have to teach a construction. So construction we may have a roofing materials. So it's up to us to decide whether it will be a wooden rafter or it will be steel or it will be some contemporary molded steel. So when we are aware the contemporary things which we are coming with what material that we can teach in that syllabus itself. Similarly, if they say ki window doesn't mean ki we have to stick to that wooden joinery which was there 20 years back. Now joinery is different. So nobody is stopping you from changing that perception. And that is over. Earlier colleges used to have a lot of wooden lathes to carve out the wood, but that is irrelevant today. Now you are having different type of machines. You are having the scanners, the sensors, the carving machines and everything, which is a very high-tech computer-based machines we are there. So that is not contradicting our syllabus. Like in Jamia, if you visit the workshop, there are very modern high-tech machines there, very expensive machines, very expensive furnaces are there. So that syllabus is not a syllabus is same which was there, but new machines are there that is being used, that is being adopted in syllabus itself. When we say art and graphic, you have to express art and difference doesn't mean ki you will not do the laser cutting. So that all things are always there that can be incorporated in a dynamic syllabus. And infinitely, if you take the guidance from the architecture education regulation, you can always have a very dynamic syllabus which can accommodate any contemporary need, and that is what we are doing. The syllabus is that guidelines from the council is almost 40 years old, but still I don't find it any problem with that. And we have been changing very dynamic. Every thing we are accommodating in it, and we are just going through transformation, and that all fits in that syllabus itself. So that is not prohibiting. And lot of experimentation we have already done, because before preaching anything, I practice it. And when it is there, then only I can say about it. Yes, it is done. Most of the light exposure and this and that climatic condition, all have been done there. Then only I'm talking. We have already started 6 master program. Then we are talking about it. Then we can have another 12 classes, courses. Yes. Option is open. You are suggesting suggestions are coming from the floor itself. One of the questions was suggesting to that only, to have master courses in the new dimensions. I also said saying this new dimensions are there. There's no point in sticking only to whatever was being taught by this SPA 50 years back, 60 years back, that we replicate. Every time we have to innovate new things, new syllabus, new courses. Not audible. Just open your mic. Open your mic.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I think I would really like to take another question, which is coming through faculty from APJ. The person is saying, sir, in today's time of profession, the industry is only looking for drafting and software work. In this case, it is important for them to learn softwares more and making them industry ready, so to say. What is your opinion? The peer pressure and expectation is putting us in a juxtaposed situation.
You are very right. Computerization is coming up. We are doing it. And to start it, if you start from the drafting composition itself, there's no harm in it, but you should have a potential to grow up. And with time, you will grow up with your sincerity and your dedication to work. Things will be replaced automatically when you are aware about it. If you take a curve in any profession, especially in architecture, when you start with your 90% or maybe 100% or 80% time goes only in drafting. But as you go vertically up, your positions are improved, you command on that, then your only 10% work may be going in the drafting or in such things. Other is on the administration and management skills. So that is the reality, and that is the vertical growth. And this is with everybody, not you are the only one. Initially, yes, I totally agree. We must be equipped with the latest available communication skills. So that is drafting, committing, GIS, everything has to be there. And we must have that basics from the school itself, and then we keep growing on that. Architecture or any profession which is practice oriented, there you are a student for the lifetime. There is no end that you have learned everything. You have to keep exploring yourself, de-learning, learning. It has to be continuous, because architecture is a one profession like a medical, that every day you have to prove your worth. Other professions may not need that, because you are dynamic, your profession is dynamic. Like surgeons also, a lot of innovations are going on. They have not been taught at the UG level, but now they have mastered. Even the people who are heading the thousands and hundreds of cardiac surgery, they have started from there assisting, and then they have reached to that level. So similarly, you start with the computer. Computer is essential, but when your mental block is not there, you are open-ended, then you will grow. And situation will be coming to that. Even in the drafting also, that is the, in the office, you will be identified from there. And then somebody which don't have the mental attitude, he will be doing that for the lifetime. But who got the mental capability, who has the awareness, who is have got the ideas and innovation, automatically he will go up. So there, all this will be relevant for him to understand what is there.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking the questions, and I think you have answered them so well. Now, I would request. Okay, there is another last question has just arrived in the chat. Request you to take this one. The person named Muzaffar Ali is saying that teaching interdisciplinary design between architecture and humanities is capable to deal with real issues of society. So, why architecture qualification not dominating in decision making bodies of government sector?
So this is up to Muzaffar Ali to make the space for him. And there are of decision makers, architects are there in every level. This is not that they are not there. Especially, I think architecture is the discipline from where the people have migrated to all the walks of life. Basic foundation may be as an architect, but in profession they are doing, in the decision making process they are also there, industries also there. If you take the example of Ratan Tata or Anand Mahindra or Aishwarya Rai or Rama Fernandez, they all were architects, but they diversified to other areas. There are many IAS civil servants who basically are the graduates of architecture, but they became IAS and now they are in the decision making process. So that is not restricted, though nobody debars you from entering any field wherever you wish to. But it's very, you may be right, their percentage may be very less, so you have to fill up. Our own students have been trying to be in civil servants in decision making process of the government. They are there. At many places they are there. It's not there, you may not be aware, but people are there and they are working.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to hand it over to Bipasha ma'am to formally thank you for the session.
Yeah, thank you, Kanika. Thank you so much, sir. It's so wonderful always to listen to you. I have been also been your student, so I still remember those days, the three P's especially of yours, the people, place, and the period, how they are important in case of an architect, or how important they are when you are sensitizing the students of architecture as a teacher. So now I would like to felicitate you through this virtual mode only. This is the only way I can felicitate you. So this is a word of appreciation from the School of Architecture and Planning, APG School of Architecture and Planning. And I thank you so much, sir, to be here and sharing your valuable knowledge as well as expertise. Thank you so much, sir.